And Merce, because they've been serial winners over the last few years. I mean, 6 league titles in the last 8 years. Guardiola, a serial winner, whether he's been at City or Barcelona or in Germany. But is, because of that, the backdrop to what's happened the last week, that defeat against United in the Manchester derby, when they were absolutely outplayed, but then Bodo Glimt, who hadn't played a game in 6 weeks. Is it being exaggerated, their fall from form in the last couple of games?
Not because of the standards they've set. Not because of the standards they set over the years. They've had injuries. Do you know what I mean? I hear managers sometimes go, oh, we've had injuries, and they start reeling off the players, and you sit there and you go, right, he don't usually play, and he don't usually play, and he don't usually play. They've had big players out.
Well,
big players
8
out.
missing on Tuesday for a start.
Sorry?
8 missing on Tuesday.
And they're big players. And then you start with the goalie, and the goalie's good, the lad who's come in. But he's different to Ederson. He started everything off, you know, they'd be comfortable passing it out. And they used to just drag teams towards them and then they counter, you know, and then they go through the lines. All that's gone now. You know, most of the time they're trying to whip it up to Haaland. He's playing 2v1, even though he's a big lad. It's still difficult. And, yeah, it's worrying times for him because of the standards they set, but it's just taking its toll. Someone like Silva, who's probably played... I dread to think how many games he's played over the last 4 or 5 years, and it's caught up with him. And I think Boydie unusually come up with something quite interesting today, where he said about the wingers, which was quite good. Where he said the connection with the wingers, they swap their wingers. There's not that, you know, when Doku gets the ball. I'm not saying it's because of Doku they're not winning games, but he'll get the ball and he'll run, and you don't know what he's going to do. Before with Man City, you knew what they were going to do. Jack Grealish would get the ball, he'd dribble, come out, and they go bang, bang, and they move it. And they move teams very, very quickly. And even though they're not going anywhere, it still grinds down the defenders of other teams. They're thinking, you know, and they keep it and keep it. And then someone falls asleep, and they're in, and they score. And that's not the case anymore. There's a lot to be done, but... it must be hard for Pep Guardiola because you just reeled off Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Man City over the last God knows how long. And it ain't like that now. It's not like that. They're a little bit off Arsenal at the moment.
And there'll be very little sympathy outside Man City for that fact. But just picking up, we'll explore more about those relationships and how it may be affecting things with Erling Haaland at the moment. But Clinton, after the game, after that defeat to Bodo Glimt, that humiliating defeat, Guardiola said things are going wrong in many, many details. What for you right now is City's biggest problems? Is it, as Merce said, the sheer volume of games, Club World Cup, of course, they were playing in a few months ago, that has finally taken its toll? Because many would look, and they'd look at Mark Gay coming in for Crystal Palace. You know, they're still making big money signings.
Yep. No, they've had a good window.
It's not really an excuse, is it?
No, it's not an excuse, but defensively, Merce, you said they had 8 players missing in midweek. Well, most of them are defenders because they're struggling. No Guardiola, no Ruben Diaz. Núñez is out at the moment, and it's been a big struggle. They had to sign Mark Gay. They probably, no disrespect, they probably didn't want to sign Mark Gay as now. They would have probably waited to the summer and tried to get him on a free transfer.
It was a needs must.
Of course it was a needs must. They were conceding a lot of goals. They had the young boy, Elaine, who's come back. They brought back on loan from Watford. Kusanov, who's not probably settled in at Man City. So it's been a struggle for them at the moment, and that is why you make Arsenal favourites to win the Premier League, because we know City can score goals. Even though everyone would talk about it, Haaland scored 1 goal in 8 games and it's a penalty. And it is a big factor that you start worrying, because if he's not scoring, who else is getting up the goals? Foden's out of form at the moment, where 4 or 5 weeks ago he was outstanding. So you need your top players to come to the fore, and they're not doing that at the moment. But defensively, it's been a big struggle. I do think they've had a brilliant window. I think bringing in Semenya and Mark Gay in the long term will be really good signings. But it's that defensive core. And then you look at outstanding player, Rodri at the moment. I'd have to ask the question, how long does it usually take to get back from an ACL? Because he's found it really difficult.
Well, Guardiola said we'll see the best of him again at the World Cup and then next season.
100%, I agree with. I think that definitely next season, because he's been out for a long time. But he's a fantastic footballer, Rodri, outstanding. But they need their best players.
He didn't fancy it the other night, did he, on that artificial pitch, which you can absolutely understand.
Is that what you're saying?
I'm just think he was making a comment.
Probably mistimed his tackle a bit, and that was it. Yeah, okay. I'm saying that.
Okay.
I don't.
Very diplomatic.
Yeah, well,
maybe I went a bit too hard.
I think
just a sense.
Just a little bit, but I think Rodri's a top player, to be fair. Yeah, he'll be disappointed that he's been sent off, but he's a top player. But they need him back fit and firing for sure.
There are 1 or 2 questions. Listen, there's been a lot of conjecture for most of the season. Boydie, about Guardiola and whether he'll be there come the start of next season. I think a lot of people think he may not be there come the start of next season. But our question marks over him right now justified. It's 2 games, yes, significant defeats, but they're on a terrific unbeaten run before that.
Yeah, they were 13 unbeaten before that. And now all of a sudden they're in a crisis because they've lost 2 games in a week. Yeah, one of them because it was in a derby. I mean, the Bodo-Glimt game, I get the fact that they've got injuries, but their team's still a strong team. They should be able to go to Norway and win that game. There's no getting away from that. I think that the problem that Manchester City are facing right now is, Clinton's touched on the defence here, but they're so exposed. The amount of runners that are getting the other side of the midfield and getting at the back line is incredible. You've seen, a few of the goals from during the week. You look at Manchester City when they counter-attacked on them last week. You look at the Manchester City midfielders of old. They were always behind the ball, playing it wide. The connection there with the wide players would go and take players on, or there was connections all over the pitch. It's not there right now. And I don't mean just with the ball. I think in terms of some of them knowing where their teammates is, where their teammates are when they've lost the ball, getting back into shape. It looks as if it's far, far too easy to play against Manchester City right now. The other thing that I would maybe ask a few questions on, you could say, and they have had a good, the 2 signings, Matt Gee and Semenyo, are good players. But you go back to last winter as well, and they spent nearly, about 200 million then as well. Teams that are organised, teams that seem to be planning ahead, they don't really do that in January. It seems to be done in the summer, which tells me that there's been a lot of change upstairs at Manchester City as well. There doesn't seem to be a connection there right now, and you feel as if, personally, I can't see Pep Guardiola being there next season.
It's not. The crisis is not because of the 2 results. Before that, they'd drawn 3 of them. Do you know what I mean? And that was the problem. It's not the same fluent.
I agree,
that's what I would say with you there, fluent. Yeah. And opportunities, you talk about Sunderland-Chelsea draws. The Brighton game, they could have been 3 down because they gave up opportunities. But some of the chances that they miss. Haaland has opportunity. We've said for numerous years that goals are scores. And you've touched on connection. You look in hindsight, should De Bruyne have stayed for another year? You've talked about characters and knowing the football club and the history and the run that they've been on. They lose Ederson. You lose Kyle Walker, arguably one of the best ever Premier League right-backs. So you lose people who know the club, know the changing room. And Pep's lost that. And he's trying to integrate everything. And they'd been on a run. And then all of a sudden questions start answering. I think the questions start answering because of what's happening at the top of the league in Arsenal. And they're running away with it.
That was always going to be the case. You felt as if Arsenal were in a strong position to kick on this year. You look at the recruitment for me with Manchester City, like Trafford was signed 1 week, and then all of a sudden Donnarumma became available. Let's go and grab another goalkeeper. Why?
Because he's one of the best. I get what you're saying, but he is one of the best.
So you're not trying to tell me that somebody connected with Donnarumma hadn't been in touch with Manchester City to say, by the way, or other clubs, he could be potentially coming up here.
Yeah, they could have.
We know how football works.
Yeah, well, they must have done the Trafford one because it was a buyback clause.
So
it's like,
what was that, buying him back to then sell him or whatever? We don't know.
In hindsight, you
look at the money that's been spent, and especially in January time, for me, 200 million odd last year. Well, it's about 80 million this year. It's a lot of money in January for a team that you feel as if, and a Pep Guardiola team that is always organised.
And also, we'll come on to talk about this, but Merce, when you look at, there's that 7-point gap between them as clubs at the moment. But when you look at the recruitment that Arsenal have done, the squad depth that we'll talk about again a little bit later, and the kind of business that City are doing, there's quite a gap between the 2 as well, isn't there?
Yeah, like Boyd is saying, they're buying us in January and they're quick fixes. Like, he's a good player, I'm going to buy him. He's a good player.
Whereas Arsenal is planning, isn't it?
What Arsenal have done is it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. The way they've got this squad together so quietly and so efficient is, they haven't just gone out and we've all sat here and gone, oh, amazing. It's just like Timber, Calafiori, people like that. We all know Semenyo can play. We all know Gay can play. But they're bringing people out of here, there and everywhere. He bought Eze and we thought, oh, he's the game changer. He bought Gyökeres, the game changer. Gyökeres is struggling to find goals. Eze doesn't play. Do you know what I mean? And no one ever says a word because all the other players around them. I don't see Man City, and because of their injuries at the moment, they haven't been out. They've got to play their team all the time. They've got to play players constantly. Arsenal are resting players and they're playing him here, and Rice don't play there, and Odegaard comes off against Forest. And their squad is just
But is that because Pep Guardiola doesn't trust some of the signings because he's been in control of them all for a number of years now? I don't think all those signings at Manchester City now are down to him. I don't. I just don't.
I'd be surprised on that.
I just feel as if with the change at the top, with Hugo Viana coming in and the club might be looking somewhere else, a lot of staff left. Maybe Pep Guardiola thought that he didn't want to leave Manchester City in the lurch. I don't know. There's something not right in Manchester City. Recruitment side. Let's not. They were 13 unbeaten before. It's been a bad week. Obviously, it intensifies and multiplies because you've lost to your rivals in Manchester United and then losing a Champions League game. But they're still in a good position in the Champions League. It's not a full-blown crisis for Manchester City. Right?
And Clinton, picking up on that phrase, there's something not quite right. You can certainly say that about Erling Haaland. You've already mentioned it. 1 goal in his last 8, and that came from the penalty spot. I think Pep Guardiola this week has talked about him being exhausted. But how much also is this run? And listen, we should say he has an unbelievable record against Wolverhampton Wanderers. 10 Premier League goals in his last 6 appearances against them. So you could well click back into form today. But how much of it is down to that point that Mer said right at the start, that those relationships that have been such a key feature of City in years gone by?
Boydie said it before we came on.
I'll invoice you later.
He did say it, but it is.
That's very generous, isn't it?
No, I give
Sorry for not
I
giving you the credit, Boydie.
It's got to get something.
Get enough.
But you do need an understanding. And Dorse just alluded to it. They miss Kevin De Bruyne. He's the one who had a great understanding with Haaland. He was creating a lot of chances. But he's still got to remember, he still scored 20 goals this season. He's been outstanding. And he said he's exhausted. I can guarantee you if Haaland's scoring goals, he's not exhausted. And I've said that many a time. Centre forward, you don't get exhausted. When you're scoring goals, Boydie would tell you, you're in the zone, you want to keep scoring goals. They're not created enough chances. And obviously, there's his last 8 appearances and his shots and the goals. And he is in one thingy, you know what? He's still getting chances. He's just not
That's not a lot of chances.
But it's not as much chances as before. But with his calibre, you still think...
Take away Chelsea and Brighton there.
Yeah.
That's bottom 3 centre-forward chances.
Yeah, too.
It is.
If you're playing in the bottom 3, that's what you'd probably get. 2 chances, 2 a game, if you're lucky.
So what you're saying, they're not creating enough chances for him,
But I've always said from day one, don't matter how good you are as a centre-forward, if you haven't got the players to provide you've got no chance. With Kevin De Bruyne, and I'm not saying it's because Kevin De Bruyne's gone at Arsenal going to win the league, absolutely not. But if you're Haaland... and you sat down with him and said, who would you love to play with more than anybody?
You've got a Rolls Royce behind you.
Well, of course, and he don't have to look. He doesn't have to look. He's got vision like a Burkamp vision. They don't have to look. You make the runs. Now, he doesn't make them many runs because he knows they're not going to pass.
I think he does, Mel. In terms of the runs, I think he's still making them. He had a good chance during the week as well. I think the issue is, good players do things... Listen, they're all good players, but the top players do things 1-2 touch, and it's bang.
Yeah.
De Bruyne would pass the ball and Haaland would then move, or vice versa. Whereas you look at it now, it might be delaying his run, or he's maybe made 2 or 3 before the next one comes in, and all of a sudden there's a striker, you're like, I ain't doing it anymore because I ain't going to run about, make runs down the side of centre-backs like that. If it's going to wide area and they've got to take someone on, they're losing it, they're then going back out trying to recycle it. The ball's not getting played through the middle the way it used to be.
They've got a lot of players there now who want to take a lot of touches on the ball.
Yeah, and that's a difference.
Doku, they all want to take touches on the ball. Kevin De Bruyne did. He played off 1 touch sometimes. And just that 1 touch once where he gets it and he goes bang.
Unlocks everything.
And Haaland's in. The next time, the defence have gone there and they're waiting for that. And then the game spreads open and then you've got players that can run with the ball. It's a domino effect. It's a domino effect. I said from day one, and I'll say it today, Haaland's not getting 60 goals at Rochdale. And I don't mean no disrespect to Rochdale. You're only as good as the people that are going to give you the ball. And he's not going to get the ball on the halfway line, beat 3 players, go round the goalkeeper and score. He's not going to do that.
Rochdale strikers got 55 goals.
No, I'm not saying Rochdale. I could say whoever you want.
Their centre-forward's got 55 goals already.
Yeah, he has.
10 goals in his last 6 league appearances against Wolves, by the way, for Erling Haaland. They meet this afternoon from 3 o'clock. Of course, it's a significant month coming up for them in terms of what's coming. They've, of course, got that League Cup semi-final second leg. They're in a really decent position. Final Champions League stage game coming up later this week. In terms of the title race, are they still able to make at least a fight of it when you look at what's to come and where they are now?
I just think defensively they are so vulnerable, and Mark Gay is going to improve that. But I think teams get an opportunity against, and we see them last week against Manchester United, and people get a little bit carried away at that. but we touched on it with the way Manchester United set up, I think, defensively, because they've still got amazing creativity playing in the final third. But I just think vulnerably, they ain't going to go on a run. I mean, before they drew the 3 games, they'd won 6 on the bounce, and they're going to have to go this again. And the problem is, it's not we just look at Manchester City. We look what they're coming up against in Arsenal, and I just don't see Arsenal losing 3 games to even be in the same bracket as this Manchester City team at this moment in time. So I cannot look past Arsenal at this moment in time because of what Manchester City have done. Boydie's looking at me and thinking...
As a Spurs fan, you must be delighted to say that.
Yeah, no, it's hard to say, but
You've got to
Arsenal...
talk the truth, don't you?
Yeah, there's far superior, and the fact that Manchester City are vulnerable in defence, I think teams get an opportunity against them, and we saw it last week against Manchester United.